May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and with everything going on in the world, it seems like it's even more important, more than ever, to have an open dialogue about our mental well-being. And that's exactly what we're doing today. This is What the Health is Going On, Mental Health Edition. Joining us today is licensed trauma psychologist and Columbia University professor, Dr. Mariel Buqué. Welcome to the show. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We're excited. So, Dr. Mariel, you're going to help us separate fact from fiction when it comes to our mental health. We'll take our best guess at whether a statement is a fact or if it's fiction. Then we're going to have to reveal the truth. So let's get started.
Okay, ladies, fact or fiction? Mental illness is caused by a personal weakness. What do you think?
I'm going to say that's
fiction.
No way.
Fiction. Dr. Mariel, what's the correct answer?
The correct answer is definitely fiction.
Okay.
Mental illness is definitely driven by multiple factors.
Yes.
Like what?
So there are internal factors and there's external factors that drive mental illness. So a person can actually be born to emotional vulnerabilities just based on the family that they come from. They can come from a background of intergenerational trauma, or maybe a background where their childhood was unstable. Maybe there were lack of resources to help. There are a number of different factors that are involved in understanding mental health and really what drives it and what drives mental illness. But it never is a factor that has anything to do with personal weakness. Actually, some of the people that are struggling with mental illness tend to be the most resourceful and the strongest people that there are really on this earth. I mean, they show up to life despite it. And that takes a lot of courage and strength.
It sure does. Okay, ladies, moving on. Fact or fiction? Mental illness is preventable. What do you ladies think? It's preventable.
Preventable.
I feel like that's fiction.
I'm going to say fact.
Really? Who's right, doctor?
Okay, Dr. Mariel.
Fact is definitely the right answer, y'all.
Really?
Yeah, it is. You know,
it is preventable?
It is actually, to an extent, right? So there are a number of mental illnesses that are preventable through specific practices that can be health promoting and can actually drive wellness. And so there are things that people can do on a daily basis through their daily routines that can actually help them to embody better wellness, right? And that also ties into their better mental health. And some of the ones that I tend to recommend and that I like the most are the ones that are free and accessible, right? That we just have at our disposal at all times, like breath work. How many times have you ever heard someone say, just breathe, right? Like breathe through it, because there is an actual nervous system restoration process that happens that creates this relaxation response in your body. And so when you do that on an ongoing basis, that actually sets you up for better mental health. Another one is actually sound bath meditations, which I tend to love.
Me too.
I've heard of that.
My favorite.
Yes, right. They're so good. And they're so effective. They can actually really help you to relax in mind and body at the same time, really at the time that you're doing the practice, but it can also have long-standing effects. And I also like to do like thought dumps onto paper. So if you just throw your worries onto a paper and just let the paper have it, and you just keep your peace and try and practice that on a daily basis, these can be some practices that are easy and accessible and can really make a difference.
So good.
Wow, but I'm so curious, doctor, what about people who are predisposed genetically, possibly? Like, how does that work? And what about the changes in aging and the environment around you or within you that can also affect mental illness that you tried to prevent, but it was an onset of something you weren't expecting?
Yeah, so when it comes to people that are already in a place where they're experiencing mental health challenges, some of the same rules do apply. We still have to actually like treat the whole person, right? So we do, for example, I practice as a holistic psychologist. So a lot of the work that I do with some of my clients are the work that you tend to see, you know, that a therapist does, right? But then I take it a step further, and we actually also engage in holistic practices that are accessible. That's really important, right? So that it can be made accessible to anybody, and especially accessible whenever a person really needs it. And so when it comes to someone who's already in the trenches, we tend to work even harder to get them out by actually facilitating like some of these practices in their daily life, even more so.
Okay. Well, here's the last one. Ladies, fact or fiction, there are early warning signs of mental illness.
Early warning sign.
Fact.
I'll say fact.
Okay, Dr. Mariel, is it fact or fiction? Fact.
It is definitely
really?
fact, yes. You know, there are some warning signs, and usually what tends to work as far as like actually noting when something needs extra attention or when somebody needs some attention from a professional is when we call it there's been a mental status shift, right? So if a person tends to act a certain way, typically they can be like pretty chill, even kill, and all of a sudden they're constantly irritable and you're like, that isn't very much like you, then it's time to pay attention. And if the person has been like that for at least a period of 2 weeks, then it's probably a moment to seek out professional support.
Thank you, Dr. Mariel. That was really, really informative. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, there are so many resources available. Just head over to thereal.com for more information.